have 5 minutes. I'll spend some time talking about ADHD for Mariah's sake, Chantel, but feel free to jump in and ask any questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a little bit about the diagnosis. So really ADHD is talking about difficulties with both attention and with hyperactivity or impulsivity. Symptoms really need to be to occur for at least 6 months and have to be present before the age of 12. So we really kind of think and know ADHD to kind of first come up in early childhood. And this is really important. It has to occur in at least 2 settings. And so, sometimes I'll get a referral for a patient for ADHD, and, there's a lot of hyperactivity and a lot of difficulties going on at home, but I'm just not seeing that in clinic when I meet the child, and I'm not seeing that reported by the school. And so that's difficult to make the case for an ADHD diagnosis because you're really only seeing in that one setting. And that can be really helpful because then you can really think more environmentally about what's going on in that particular setting that might be contextually leading to those behaviors. So executive functioning, I will make sure that you guys have, I'll send this in the slides. I think that's probably not as helpful to kind of talk through. You can just reference that. So for ADHD, this is going to look very similar, right? So I'm talking about still doing a neuropsychological evaluation that can be really helpful, and then still having that team meeting and still using that document as really a jumping off point for advocating for those services. And, when we think about ADHD for IEPs for kids with ADHD, I think often schools do not address ADHD symptoms directly. And so I always try and recommend that the child have a really specific behavior goal, or maybe even an attention goal or an executive functioning goal actually on their IEP, with related kind of objectives and benchmarks that they need to be meeting in order to address these things that are clearly interfering with their learning. Medication can obviously be helpful for ADHD. I'm not an MD, but obviously medication for ADHD can be really, really helpful. My big spiel on this is, if any of us on this call took an ADHD medication, we would also reap its benefits. And so the effect sizes for these medications are really quite large. And what that means is that they work pretty reliably. And there's just some resources. I'm hoping this will be helpful for Mariah, but Russell Barkley is really kind of a leader in this field, and he has a really great book. I don't know if Chantel, you're familiar with some of these resources.
I have not heard of Russell Barkley, but I do have a few books about ADHD that I've perused through when Liam was first diagnosed. Yeah.
Are there any that you can share that might be helpful for Mariah?
Oh, I'd have to go look at my library downstairs. I don't remember off the top of my head, unfortunately.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. And then I would just, I would encourage both of you to take a look at CHAD, which is an organization for children and adults with ADHD. There's just a lot of really, really great, I actually encourage a lot of parents of typically developing children to also visit this site, because I think it can just be really helpful in terms of, repackaging information in ways that might be a little bit more sensitive to different, neurodiverse profiles, and just ways to, just some recommendations for both school and home. And then I guess I'll just, it's 2:59. I'll just say something quickly about executive functioning coaching. So this is something I think that has gotten a lot of, at least here, it's gotten very popular. And right now it's kind of this very private service that is provided primarily through tutoring companies. And I think the biggest point that I will make on this is there is some pretty good research for adults, but there's really not good research for children and adolescents using any of these programs. That's not to say that they're not helpful, but I think a lot of these companies will make a lot of anecdotal claims about how helpful that these services can be. It can be incredibly helpful for some kids, no questions asked. But I'll just put like an asterisk on my executive functioning coaching slide by saying that kind of the research is not quite there yet. And so just kind of think about using these services and pouring a bunch of money and time into these types of things. Just think about that a little bit more cautiously. But what I typically recommend is for this type of coaching to actually happen within the school and within school programming. And so I like the term coaching, and I keep the term coaching when I say it, even though schools usually aren't speaking the same language, because this is different from having the child pulled out for like a resource room where they get one-to-one, you know, agenda planning. This is what I would consider to have kind of pull in services. So this is really an opportunity for someone from special education to be working with the child in the moment in how to, you know, process information that might be a little bit more complex, or you know, if the teacher is giving an assignment, for example, that is again pretty complex, having someone in the room being able to kind of repackage that or maybe chunk it and try to help the student to understand what is being instructed. And then Shinta, I'll stop there, but if you're interested in these slides, I will provide them, no problems asked. And you can also feel free to email me if you have any questions.
Okay. I'd love the slides. I think they're great. There's some information there I think would be really beneficial for me, especially as we transition to a new school district and community.
Yeah, no problem.
Kirstin, do you want to send those to me and then I can get them off to Chantel and Mariah?
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. Thanks, Kier.
Yeah. Chantel, do you have was there anything else that you were hoping to kind of gain from today that I didn't talk about? Or
no, it's been great. I really appreciate your time today, Kirstin. I definitely picked up a few things today and I appreciate that.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. I hope you all have a lovely day. Yeah, thank you.
Be sure to join the Trupanion page.
We'll see. I will, and see some other things going on. Sounds good. Thanks, Jessica.
Okay.
Bye all.